Hello, everybody, and welcome to our next full LP. As you can see, it's going to be Chaos Child, a delusional science adventure, as it says right there. But yes, if you don't know what this is, it's part of a larger series that includes a popular visual novel and an anime known as Steins Gate that you should definitely check out. I have liked this series for quite a while, and I've oh, it's okay. We're getting the opening. You know what? I'm actually gonna stop that. It's a little loud. um, but yeah, I've actually liked this series for quite a while. It's also been a while since I've played one of the entries, and I've played them all except for Robotics Notes Dash and Anonymous Code, which is, as far as I have heard, is like the finale to the series. Let's maybe turn the movie down a little bit more because it was really loud. Um, so yeah. Well, and then I have not played Chaos Child. This is the last one I feel I need to play before I play Anonymous Code and kind of finish the series. We're gonna put the message speed up so that I can read, and I think I am gonna be reading during this playthrough. So if you're not a fan of that, you're probably not gonna want to watch this playthrough. But yeah, I think I am going to be reading all of the text. So in fact, I'm going to turn the voice dialogue down by like quite a bit. But I do kind of still want it to be there. I hope that is like okay. Um, we'll figure it out. You know, if I have to turn the voices off completely or turn them up, we'll figure it out as the LP goes on. But yeah, we're just gonna start off. I do not know what happens in this game, what's going to happen. November 6th, 2009, 10:28 p.m. It came without warning. Is it going to be an earthquake like in Chaos Head? So yeah, I remember Chaos Head, decently. I mean, Gigalomaniacs, Noah 2, which looks like something like that may have just activated. Oh yeah. All the crazy murderers and psycho characters. It was a magnitude 7.8 earthquake with an epicenter directly under the city. This disaster reduced one of Tokyo's busiest downtown areas to nothing in a single night. Yeah, I remember that site. The high rise buildings that had birthed so many trends and fads collapsed as if giving up on their role in society. Black fires spread through the city. As individuals fell into the grip of the crowd's psychology, their terror was magnified. Combined, all of these took many lives. The final death toll was 3,851. The final number of injured, 30,927. This event would later be known as the Shibuya earthquake. That happened during Chaos Head. Even in all that destruction, people still suffered the most in their hearts. Some who had lost their families came together to share new resolve, while others who had been forced to watch their friends die were driven by guilt to take their own lives. Damn. As a baby was miraculously reunited with its parents after 72 hours, a child in an evacuation shelter asked her dad, "When's mommy coming home?" He had no answer. Some of the wounded made it to hospitals by looking at real-time updates on the web. Others saw people on the internet talking about the disaster as if it were a movie and were driven mad. A homeless man was saved from malnutrition by an organized volunteer group, but at the same time, a middle school boy punched a self-centered volunteer who'd come to Shibuya to find himself in the face. It was the first time in that boy's life he'd ever been violent. The psychological toll was incredible, and many of the survivors would later manifest symptoms similar to those associated with PTSD. Yes, and terms that have like a different color, and we'll see something up here at the top of the screen here. There's kind of like a dictionary that we can look at if we need to for terms that are important. The young were hit the hardest, and before long, the cause of those symptoms was given a name: Chaos Child Syndrome. Title drop. Rebuilding happened after a feverish pitch never seen before. It felt inappropriate to say, "hang in there," but people felt that somebody had to do something. The new slogan was Shibuya, a city reborn, and no amount of money or manpower was spared in aiding the endeavor. The whole town was in the grip of a fever. In private, a leader of the redevelopment effort said, "This may sound unkind, but this frenzy feels like a town burying its grief by holding a festival." Building codes were rigorously evaluated with an eye toward earthquake engineering. Perhaps in an effort to emphasize the city's safety, security cameras were put up all over town. Shibuya would become a place where everyone could live in peace. But at the same time, a rumor began to spread about the earthquake. Something about this earthquake doesn't make sense. There were no aftershocks, and the damage had spread in a strange way. Harajuku and Ebisu, areas only a kilometer away from Shibuya, suffered few casualties and even fewer collapsed buildings. This damage pattern had never been observed in any prior earthquake, and so more than a few pundits claimed the Shibuya earthquake must have been artificial. More than anything, some of the survivors all said the same things. "I saw a white light. I heard a sound like a ringing in my ears." Too many people experienced this for anyone to laugh it off, but no cause of those phenomena was ever found. It was just more evidence to those who believed that something about the earthquake had been wrong. Then, 6 years after the strange earthquake in 2015, something else was about to attract attention in the reborn city of Shibuya. And yeah, you know what? I think I won't say anything more about the plot of the previous game. If you were God and your delusions could become reality, what delusions would you wish for? A sensual world? A despotic society? Oh, I couldn't finish it all. The little tagline under the title of Chaos Child. September 7th, 2015, Sunday night. Okay, I'm going to take 3 minutes for questions. Get to it. Okay, wait, give me 1 second. Oh no, wait. Don't want to exit the game. Here we go. Gonna lower voices a little bit more, because that was still quite loud. Very cool menu screens though as well. The second he spoke, the comment box started to fill. Utani Yuma watched it for a few seconds and then saw the request, "When does Haru-chan tell us she's dating somebody?" He smiled to himself. Just what he wanted. Most of the requests were about hot actors or cute idols. His audience was so stupid that it was easy to tell exactly what they were going to ask. The problem was always whether the name that came up was someone he knew. That was a question of luck and how popular they were. But Haru-chan, her name was Haruko something or other. She was fine. Just a few days ago, he'd forced himself to go to an event he'd rather have skipped and seen it for himself. Okay. Satisfied, Utani got up to get some snacks like he always did. He lived in a one-bedroom condo located 8 minutes from Shibuya Station, cost 150,000 yen per month. It had been built after the earthquake, so the furnishings and layout were modern. A little more room would have been nice, but compared to the 40,000 yen per month place he'd lived in last year, it was heaven. Next year, maybe I'll move somewhere more convenient. At 21 years old, Utani felt satisfied for the first time in his life. In 4th grade, he'd gotten big into online gaming and stopped going to school. Eventually, he'd stopped leaving his room altogether. Then he'd gotten addicted to drugs that made him sleepy but did nothing else. Once, seeing only darkness in his future, he'd planned to commit suicide. In the chaos after the earthquake 6 years ago, he'd finally managed to leave his room, but his family had already given up on him. After he failed his entrance exams, he went to live on his own in Shibuya, and he hadn't spoken to his parents since. As far as they knew, he'd failed the exams 3 times in a row. In fact, he hadn't even gone to the tests after the first time. There wasn't anything he wanted to learn in college, or any companies he wanted to work for badly enough. He had no goal in life. At all. But things were different now. Maybe @channel does tell the truth sometimes. Guess I'll have some cheese. He took a block of cheap cheese he'd bought at the supermarket out of the fridge. Usually, he never ate anything this cheap. But on Nico Nia live streaming, it wasn't just what you said, how you looked when you said it also mattered. Utani wasn't a good-looking man, let alone a cute girl. He was just a plain old guy, and so to keep his program popular, he needed to make them think that he was poor, barely managing to scrape by, in fact. That's why he kept the area around his PC and the parts of his apartment that you could see with his webcam completely plain. Last month, he'd finally reached his goal of 4,000 viewers. For a man with nothing going for him like Utani, this was extremely unusual. 3 months ago, he'd guessed the winners of a popularity contest a certain idol group was holding, as well as the winners of a popularity contest a certain idol group was holding, as well as their total number of votes. That must have really paid off. After that, his numbers had been going up steadily. Late last month, when his streams had appeared at the top of Nico Nia Video's page, he'd seen a huge increase. Right now, he'd gotten above 4,500, and it was quite possible he'd break 5,000 by the end of the month. Good for this guy. It was around late last year when he'd started to wonder about his power. It was a certain rumor on one of @Channel's occult boards that made him really start to realize what he had. The name he'd chosen for his streams subtly reflected this. TIL, I can see the future. So today I learned I can see the future. He took out a knife to cut the cheese. There was a strange sound. He thought he just imagined it when... Knock, 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 knock. He heard it again. It was coming from the door. Someone was clearly knocking on his door. Huh. Jungle, maybe? Suspicious, he walked toward the door to answer, then checked the clock. It was 11:41 p.m. Not exactly normal delivery hours. Oh, come on, I'm streaming right now. He tried to ignore it, but... The knocking continued. It was the same rhythm at the same pace. As if the visitor's goal wasn't to come inside, but simply to make that sound. Ugh. Utani felt a bit creeped out. He decided to go to the intercom camera and see who it was, but then realized that would be pointless. Only the auto-locking door on the first floor had a camera. The door to Utani's room on the 5th floor had an intercom, but no camera. Utani gave up. Damn it, if you want something, push the intercom button. Knock, 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 knock. Maybe it's a drunk? No, the knocks were too steady for that. And there was no voice yelling at him to open up. Ugh. He'd seen this door a million times, but suddenly it looked somehow different. Somehow he didn't know... Someone he didn't know was on the other side of the wall, demanding entry in the middle of the night. Somehow, this made the door seem intimidating. Utani thought he might look through the peephole to see who was outside. He was then disgusted to find himself too scared to even get close to the door. Wait, the intercom didn't have a camera, but it did have a microphone. He turned toward the living room so he could use the intercom and find out what they wanted. Utani-san, it's me. Sorry to come by so suddenly. He stopped when he heard that voice. It's me. Sorry to bother you when it's this late. Utani tried to remember who the speaker was, but found he couldn't. But from the tone of the voice and the words, they probably weren't a weirdo. When they said, "I'm sorry," it sounded like they really meant it. Ugh. Utani sighed softly with relief, and then realized he was still carrying the knife he'd been using to cut cheese. It suddenly felt stupid to feel so nervous. He quickly laid the knife on top of the sink. Right, I'll open it now. Who is it? It's me. Don't you remember? Another thing I wanted to mention real quick is I am using the Committee of Zero fan patch to enhance the game and make sure things are really just at their best and we're getting the full experience as intended. The voice simply repeated itself. But who are you? Utani whispered to himself as he opened the door. Who is it? Utani narrowed his eyebrows at the people standing there. He looked them up and down and looked at their faces again. Their eyes met. Who are you guys? Ooh. Utani suddenly felt a piercing headache. Utani closed his eyes and put his right hand up to his temple. He could feel the blood pounding in his veins through his fingers. He staggered and quickly put his other hand against the wall to keep from falling over. The pain was like the old days when he'd overdosed on antidepressants, but much more intense. Oh! He grit his teeth against the pain and dug his nails into the wall that was holding him up. As he waited for the pain in his fingers to help dull the pain in his mind. Utani-san, are you feeling okay? He heard a voice he'd heard many times before, and felt a concerned hand on his shoulder. He somehow managed to ignore the pain and open his eyes. A worried face was peering down at him. Yeah, I'm fine. This just happens sometimes lately. Overwork, perhaps? You've been so busy lately. You shouldn't push yourself so hard. You're always such a worrier. I'm fine. Come in. He opened his mouth as wide as he could and moaned, trying to ease the pain as he let his important guests inside. As he turned his back on his guests, he told himself that it had been a long time since he'd seen them. Or maybe not? It couldn't have been more than 2 months since they'd last met. It only felt long because he'd wanted to see them so badly. Oh, right, it was nice of you to come by, but I'm streaming. While he was out here, he decided he would cut some cheese for himself and his guests. Oh, don't worry about us. No, I can't do that to you guys. What's wrong? No, it's nothing. The blade wasn't cutting into the cheese. That's strange, he told himself as he pushed down with more force. He cut into its surface, and it made an unpleasant sound he'd never heard before. But no matter how hard he pushed, it wouldn't go further. Oh, God. Confused, he yanked the knife back and forth like a saw, but it only cut in slightly deeper. It was as if there was something hard inside the cheese. And even though he'd only just taken it out of the fridge, it was slightly warm. Damn it, what's going on with this thing? Oh, man. Irritated, he slammed the handle of the knife against the cheese. But all it did was bash it in a little. He couldn't cut through it. God damn it! I'll help you. His guests must have heard the sound because they rushed over. They had another knife. When did they get that out? There's a trick to cutting it. They put the knife up against the cheese and began to move with a practiced hand. It sounds like your work is going well. They smiled at Utani, their voices slightly low. Utani realized that they were trying to keep their voices from being picked up by the streaming microphone, and lowered his voice as well. Yeah. He grinned and nodded. His guest had introduced him to a firm that handled advertising space for popular websites, which had been giving him regular work. His reputation had quietly spread throughout the small web advertising industry, and soon he was getting more and more offers. This job's all about predicting trends, so it's perfect for me. I can't lose. Then why do these streams? It's hard to say. I guess you could say I'm trying to see how far I can go. That's right. His power wasn't meant to be wasted on jobs that anyone could do. No one's done this before, so I can't ask anybody about it, you know? So I want to do everything I can by myself. Or am I sounding like a show-off? No, it's wonderful, I think. And... oh, no, it's wonderful, I think. And... done. After he'd smacked it a few times, the cheese was a little funny looking, but the even slices were lined up neatly on the plate. Sorry to make you help like that. It's nothing. Go on, I'll wait until your stream is finished. Thanks. If you want something from the fridge, grab it. Oh, but be quiet. Utani took his cheese back to his seat and saw a flood of comments reading, "He's late, and did he log off?" What should have only been 3 minutes had turned into more than 15. Utani put a bite of the cheese in his mouth and began to chew loudly. So sorry, I bought this cheese on sale, and it's just so incredibly hard. He apologized to the camera, remembering to keep up the act of being poor and starving. And as he hoped, the comments started to come in. Belongs in the trash. Extreme. Yep, those are some proteins right there. Reported, this broadcast will end soon. You trained in Hollywood, I can tell. This is making me sick. Stop it, it's disgusting. Huh? Utani's face took on a confused expression. The comments were strange. He thought there might be something on the camera, but he turned around and saw only his fake poor room. Is something wrong? He spoke into the camera, but the comments still didn't make any sense, and they were coming in faster. Maybe there was a problem with the camera. He reached his right hand out toward it. In an instant, his headache was back. It was the same pain as before. No, worse. He closed his eyes and jerked forward, banging his head against the desk. But the pain in his head was so bad that he didn't even feel it. He tried to hold his head in his hands, but for some reason, his right hand wouldn't move. So instead, he pushed his other hand up against his temple. It felt squishy. The vein was incredibly swollen, and it felt like rubber. And each time he felt his blood pulse through it, there was an unpleasant sensation in his fingers. He stamped his feet against the floor, hoping to find some small escape from the pain. But it didn't even get slightly better. It was then that he realized he was crying. He could feel the tears coming from his eyes. The pain was moving there now, too. Ugh. Unable to bear it, he opened his eyes. He gasped. The whole scene appeared in front of him like some kind of awful magic trick. What's going on? He suddenly heard the sound of something wet dripping onto the floor. His eyes reflexively turned toward it. His right arm was gone at the elbow, and the stump was gushing blood. There was a pool of it on the floor, and the sound he heard was the new blood splattering into it. Huh? Utani didn't understand what had happened to him. What was going on? He'd just gone to check on a knock at the door. The pain screamed within him. Any sense of pain in what remained of his right arm was overcome by the pain in his head. He felt nothing from his arm at all, though he saw the blood dripping to the floor. What the hell was going on? He blinked and forced his aching eyes to function as he looked around the room. Oh, man. On top of his desk, he found the rest of his arm. It was sitting on a plate. At first, it looked like it was still in one piece, but it wasn't. It was neatly sliced into uniform pieces. Each piece was about a centimeter wide, and the slices moved neatly toward his fingers. They sat upon the plate in roughly his arm's original shape. Miraculously, he saw there was no blood on the tip of his index finger. He still didn't understand that it was really his own arm, but sheer disgust at what he saw caused him to leap out of his chair. What was this? What kind of prank was this? I'm going to kind of let him do his own, grunts of pain and whatnot. The contents of his stomach flooded into his mouth. He vomited. The pink fluid splashed against the desk. He saw something solid in the middle of it. It was a thumb. It was covered in bite marks, saliva, and stomach acid, but horribly he remembered it. What? When did he put that into his mouth? In his pain-filled mind, he suddenly heard a sound he'd never heard before. Ugh. Each time he heard the sound, the pain in his head got worse. He turned toward the camera, hoping for an answer to what was happening. But of course, there was none to be found. The screen was still filling with comments, but his eyes were too filled with tears for him to read them. Oh man, as the whole world turned red, Utani didn't even realize that his lips were turning purple. His lips had turned purple from lack of oxygen, but were stained red with blood from his severed thumb, which he had chewed himself. As he tried to fight the pain, he began to fall unconscious, and tears fell from his eyes. The tears seemed pink to him. Utani was weeping blood. He died, still facing the camera. There he goes. His guests watched the chain of events unfold, then silently headed for the door. Just before they left the room, "Goodbye," they said, as if nothing at all was wrong, and shut the door. Damn. Oh, you can kind of see the stump. This quite a bit scarier than usual. I'm bored. Go back to the usual stream. It's really how it would be, huh? September 19th, 2015, Friday night. Phew. Takayanagi Momone had finished her concert. Like always, she stayed behind to help put away the instruments. She even helped clean up the audience seats, even though that was the concert hall's job. Only after all of that was done could she take a break. There wasn't much time left before her solo street concert, but she still had to help anyway. She'd always been like that. Even if it wasn't her responsibility, she couldn't help but get involved. It was like in middle school when one of her friends who wasn't as good at studying asked her for test notes. Or in high school when a girl she knew asked her how to make Valentine's chocolate for a boy she really liked. She'd stayed up so many late nights that her own test grades were worse than her friends', and she didn't even have anyone to give chocolate to on Valentine's Day. In the end, it was the other person's responsibility, not hers, but basically, I'm just a huge wuss. Takayanagi Momone was, at heart, scared of not doing everything she could, even if everything wasn't her responsibility. The concert today was another big success. Sure, it was a tiny room that could only fit in 150 people or so, standing room only. But tickets were 3,000 yen, high for a band with an amateur vocalist like her, and they still sold out instantly. It was bizarre how excited the crowd was. She'd heard sobs during the ballad, and during one of the high-tempo songs, the audience had stood up all the way to the back row. This is impossible. She felt a chill and hugged herself tightly. It's not that her band wasn't popular. They'd started out in the Nikoniya Sang It category and had kept going by doing covers of popular anime songs. It helped that her face, which had earned her the nickname Scarecrow in school, could look really good when she wore makeup. And if all of them put on ridiculous costumes and acted like idiots, some people would enjoy that. Videos of their concerts and performances pulled a decent number of views online. But Takayanagi noticed the vast majority of the people looking at the videos were people who'd come to her concerts. People who'd experienced that insane intensity were going back to the videos to try and feel it again. Takayanagi knew that they probably wouldn't feel even 1% of it. It's just impossible. The ticket prices and audience sizes were one thing, but the strangest thing to her was their eyes. Their eyes pierced right through her, unblinking. They were like pets, totally dependent on their master. The meaning of the lyrics began to take over their lives, and they never even questioned it. There has to be something wrong with my voice. When she first realized that this was happening, she tried to quit the band. Even if she couldn't, she at least wanted to stop doing the live shows where people heard her directly. But the others around her wouldn't let that happen. Your voice is amazing, they would tell her. They forced her to keep singing, even as the concerts began to terrify her. Takayanagi tried to get out of it, but in the end, she kept giving in. She owed her fellow band members for getting a plain, dull girl like her into music. And for a while, part of her managed to have fun. But in the end, Takayanagi lacked the tiny bit of courage needed to break out of the cycle. She forced herself to get up and head toward the street concert, which she didn't really want to do. She received an email. She read it slowly. No way. She'd almost dropped her smartphone. She read it again and again, trying to control her shaking hands. It was nothing special, just a simple message about one of the songs she'd made. Good song. Keep it up. No way. Takayanagi tried to stop the tears, but couldn't. The band would get too many messages like this to count, especially after concerts. She knew it was rude, but to be honest, she was sick of them. But this email address wasn't for her band. It was one for a site where she had anonymously uploaded original songs. In other words, whoever sent this message hadn't come to her concerts. They never heard her voice live or felt its strange power. But they had still said they liked her song. Really? Wiping away tears that wouldn't stop, she quickly wrote a response. That makes me really happy, thank you. Even after she sent it, she kept crying for a while. She hadn't cried this much since the earthquake. And then she stood up. Stupid things. She took her costumes for the day's concert out of her bag, balled them up, and threw them in the trash. It was a white-caped outfit worn by some angel character in some anime. Certain fans really loved it, but she didn't care about it at all. She took a wet towel off a nearby table and violently wiped away her makeup. I think I'm okay with being a scarecrow. She was never wearing another cape or putting on makeup to look like an anime character again. Never, she said aloud. She realized she was more excited than she'd ever been before. Also, I've never heard the whole, being called a scarecrow thing. That's kind of interesting. And then she started to realize what she wanted to do. I guess I could just leave Shibuya. I'm sure things are going to get messy here. What would happen if she said she was going to quit the band? It had caused trouble for a lot of people, definitely. Her band was scheduled to play in the Restoration Festival. But even so, she never wanted to sing at another concert. I shouldn't use the street where I've done shows or my fans will see me. Wait, I'll be fine with this face. She laughed and kissed her smartphone. Oh wow, this is so much fun. She couldn't wait to get home and start fiddling with her music. Over the web, she could really share her music with others. As long as they weren't hearing her voice live, it would be fine. If she just played a recording from a speaker, for example. I've got a small speaker in my house, don't I? That's right. She'd leave Shibuya, and when she had a few more songs, she could record them and play them at a street concert. That speaker was small enough that she could fit it under her clothes to fool people. It would be rude to do the same song every time, so each time she'd re-record it at home. Oh boy. We're gonna have another one. There was a knock at the door. One of the staffers, maybe? Oh, I'm coming. She smiled and answered them. Now that she'd thrown away her clothes, her bag was lighter than she'd ever imagined it could be. That lightness made her think about the future. She was happy. Knock, knock, knock. Coming! Taki and Agi happily danced toward the door, completely ignorant of what was on the other side. Oh boy. Here we go. I think we're going to be spared of the details, maybe. September 19th, 2015. Friday night. Shortly after she finished, she was walking through Shibuya. She had a limp and dragged one leg behind her as if it was injured. Her bangs were unnaturally long. Most of her face was covered by them. She wore a dark-colored dress that seemed to melt into the night, and above it, a bright red cardigan. Her chest, arms, and legs were almost completely covered. Despite the fact that the night was still warm, she wore gloves as if it were a sin to show any skin at all. Oh, sorry. She ran into a couple coming out of a hotel and staggered slightly. But she didn't even look at the people she ran into. She looked down and disappeared into the streets of Shibuya. Interesting. I'm sure that's not Taki and Agi. What was that? Man, talk about creepy. Hey, did you see your face? Huh? Why? It was so weird. What was that? Those eyes were so weird. Chapter 1, Digital Native. The right sider chases the cases. And we got Digital Native. Started Chapter 1. Achievement. So now, I believe we are playing as our main character here, Miyashiro Takuru. Miyashiro Takuru. Let's say that, for example, you asked a kid in middle school, do you know what Schrodinger's cat is? Most would say yes, or I've heard of it. We'll start by eliminating the Dokyuns who say they've never heard of it. Okay, we will look at the the tips list. That's what they're called, the tips. So this DQN is, as it says, net slang, pronounced Dokyun, used to refer to people who are stupid, antisocial, or delinquents. I remember that from the first one. Next you ask, well, what is it? What was it? Next, we eliminate those poor fools who say, it's something about a cat in a box, right? Or, there's this cat, but you don't know if it's alive or dead, right? Or maybe they say, there's a cat in a box, and next to it there's a device that may or may not give off poisonous gas. You don't know if the cat's alive or dead till you open the box. Everybody knows that. We can eliminate these show-offs as well. Anybody from these groups is a wrong-sider. Okay, well, we'll look at that one too. So a wrong-sider is someone on the wrong side of the digital or information divide. Originally, the term referred to those who, for various reasons, found it difficult to make use of information and communications technology, such as the internet. However, in recent years, it has also come to refer to people who can't properly use the information they do have, or who are simply ignorant. The term is often used on internet message boards and other places online in order to insult people who have poor, misguided reasoning or are using information that is considered outdated. Miyashiro uses this term in the latter sense of the word, not its original meaning. So that's what he's saying right now. The right answer would be to describe the experiment and then say, it was a thought experiment proposed by Schrödinger to criticize the quantum mechanical theory that state collapse only occurs after human observation. But barely anyone can do that. And I'd imagine that I'm the only guy who's still in high school who knows that Schrödinger got the idea after exchanging letters with Einstein. I hate wrong-siders. I'd taken a break from investigating the two incidents that had occurred recently in Shibuya and was paging through some at-channel blog aggregators for a change of pace. As always, articles about bad idols and corporations with terrible work environments were getting tons of hits. It was hard to believe that the crash of 15, a huge news story that had just happened this month, was already off the front pages. Well, let's see what that is. So let's see. The largest solar storm in recorded history on Earth, causing electronic failures worldwide, particularly in North America. The massive damage to infrastructure. So in this incident, a large hole opened in the Earth's geomagnetic field, leaving Earth defenseless against an incoming solar flare. Since no precautions were taken beforehand, the powerful electric current caused electronics and high-voltage transformers around the world to fail, shutting down the entire electrical grid temporarily. The reconstruction project in Shibuya following the Shibuya earthquake had only just finished its redesign of the city's infrastructure, and while Japan suffered relatively little damage, Shibuya in particular suffered almost none. So that's already off the front pages. Did the people reading and commenting on these sites realize that everything they read about corporations and idols was carefully controlled? Did they know that most of the big aggregator sites are corporations too? Did they realize that the comments were all manipulated to go one direction or another? Kids our age were living in a world where all the information you could ever want was right at your fingertips. To those of us in the Satori generation, ignorance was the worst sin. Alright, I gotta check that one too. A phrase used on the internet in Japan in the 2010s. It's an unspecified generation, but it says people born in the 1990s. Alright. Cool. It says members of this generation are said to not want things they don't need, act far more logically, and avoid putting forth any unnecessary effort. Hence the descriptor Satori, enlightened. One cause of this is believed to be that the internet was widely available by the time they were old enough to use it, which exposed them to information about society and the reality of the world at a far earlier point and a far more intricate level than any generations before them. The ignorant were self-righteous, easily manipulated, and eager to push their paper-thin worldview onto others. They were nothing but a nuisance. The worst of the lot were the so-called otaku. I couldn't stand otaku. They were wrong-siders. Take the picture on the cover of this magazine. It was for Bloodtoon. Any otaku who just watched it for the cute characters was a loser. There was no point in watching the show if you were going to ignore its deeper themes. I couldn't stand people who still held to that old-fashioned idea that only otaku watched anime, but people who ignored a show's themes and just watched it for the cuteness were even worse. They were ignoring the implicit social criticism hidden in... What? I stared at the magazine in amazement. Specifically, I stared at the box that listed the next episode previews. The text said that Eren was missing. Idiots! Damn it, I'd let my guard down because I knew this episode was written by the guy who wrote the original manga. The original author doesn't know anything about his own work. How could you remove Eren from the story halfway through? Not keeping her around meant bringing all the internal drama that had been built up so far to a halt. God damn it. So much for my change of pace. I knew I had to do work on the case, but I'd put it away because I couldn't find any link between the two crimes. I thought for a moment, then took my magazine from its secret stash. It was an issue of an older magazine called Cool Cat Press. People called it a dating guide for normies written by someone who'd never dated a girl in his life, but you'd be surprised. Magic words to make any girl fall in love with you. Stupid. I knew it was stupid. But when I ran an internet search for their #1 phrase, nothing came back. And that was the thing. The fact that it didn't show up on the internet meant, to me, that it was worth something. I know this is extraordinarily selfish of me, but may I fall in love with you? With who? Ah! What are you doing? I turned to yell at the voice. Huh? Uh, Onoe, when did you get here? I hid my favorite magazine behind my back and tried to calm my racing heart. His favorite magazine, huh? Even if we've known each other since we were kids, don't just come in without permission. I knocked, didn't I? So what's that magazine? Anything interesting? It's nothing. I couldn't let her find out. This was bad. What's going on? Why are you wearing your school uniform? Didn't you go home? Sarika frowned. You're the one who told me to go investigate the crime scenes for our club today. Huh, that's right. Here you go, more pictures from the crime scenes. Sarika took a USB memory stick out of her purse. Oh, thanks. Could you transfer it to my computer for me while you're at it? Sarika looked a little confused. That's rare. You never let anyone touch your computer. Not really. You're allowed. She didn't seem to think much of it as she started to copy the data off. Okay, now's my chance. The RV was cramped, but there was a lot of space for storage. I pretended to make tea as I tried to find room on the top shelf. Okay, there's just enough room for one more magazine. And then, I heard a psh psh sound like a small fart from behind me. I glanced back and saw that Sarika was using the mouse with one hand and fiddling with her Garo Froggy Guerrero strap with the other. This was my chance. The Garo Froggy Guerrero strap was a soft vinyl cell phone strap I won in a candy contest when I was a kid. When you pushed its belly, it was supposed to go Garo. It turned out to be an incredibly rare prize that could fetch 100,000 yen at an auction, but since I was a kid who didn't know any better, I gave it to Sarika as a present. Sarika seemed to really like it, and she'd carried it with her ever since. Which, well, that was fine, but... It was old and faded, and when you pressed its belly, air leaked out of its side and made a weird noise. It used to go Gero, I think, but now it just made a strong whooshing sound. Ever since she was a kid, she'd had this habit of fiddling with it, especially when she was nervous or focused on something. In other words, she was focused on the computer. Now's my chance to hide it. I jammed the magazine onto the shelf and moved some things so she couldn't see it. Want a mountain view? Nah, don't waste it. I'm leaving in a second anyway. Okay, all done. There were quite a few files on the screen. You took a lot of pictures. Any luck? I didn't see anything new. What about you, Taku? Find anything new that connects the two cases? No. I shook my head, frustrated. Oh, I see. Well, let's not get frustrated yet. I'll see you in the club room tomorrow. Just as she was about to leave, I got an idea. Oh, Onoe. I needed to double-check my information. She was, in theory, a girl. I'm just asking, but... Huh. Well, let's say someone asked you out. Huh? Just hypothetically, okay? What would you think if they said, I know this is extraordinarily selfish of me, but may I fall in love with you? Is that what you were just saying? Never mind that. What do you think? Sarika thought for a second. Is this person younger than me? Wait. Oh, we're gonna get to do our first thing already? Huh? Switch between positive and negative. Oh, okay. So, I believe this is the delusion trigger. And we can essentially have Takeru have a positive or negative delusion. Or, I believe if we don't choose either, the story will just play out, well, normally. So I wonder what I should do. I did not expect to have one so soon, and this seems like a fairly inconsequential choice. I'm a little worried that if I go with positive, we might get something a little a little fan servicey. If we get do something negative, it could be very bad. I think he is very worried about this. So maybe we should go with negative. Since they're being so polite. Or I can go positive. Or I could not do any, but the delusions are part of the fun, right? Okay, I will start negative, and maybe I will, like, flip-flop between positive and negative. That's true, come to think of it. Why was it so polite anyway? Maybe they are? I mean, never mind that. What do you think? Well, I think it's really polite, but nobody's ever asked me out, so I don't know. Anything else? Like, oh, how romantic. Not really. That would depend on the person, right? What's going on here, cool cat? It would depend on the person asking the question. Of course it would! Oh, trigger on. Oh, we did our first delusion trigger. Didn't get scared and tried to delusion trigger. But wait a second. Sarika just said it would depend on the person. Sarika and I have known each other for a long time. We've been friends since we were little, and we still spent a lot of time with each other. Which means there's a good chance that she likes me. In other words, if I went for it, could I at least get a kiss? That's right. Cool Cat Press said the same thing. In the October 10th, 1999 edition, it was a special titled How to Silence a Woman by Kissing Her. This fall, women are waiting for your kiss. Share an unbalanced kiss and fall in love. Do whatever it takes to trick her into kissing you. He who dares wins. Oh my god. Do whatever it takes to trick her into kissing you. Uh-oh. I see why it's so negative. Oh no, wait. Just for a bit. Just for a bit, okay? Huh? Just for a bit what? Oh god. I grabbed a confused Sarika and forced her down on the bed. Yeah! Just for a bit! Really, just for a little bit! He who dares wins! And they say kisses are magic. If I kissed Sarika, maybe she'd fall in love with me. I wasn't sure I wanted Sarika to fall in love with me, but it really felt like I was just grabbing the first girl that was available, but I just really wanted to kiss someone, and it didn't matter who. Let me kiss you, Onoe! I felt a strong shock along my left cheek. My head shook. I was seeing stars. Taku, you're creepy. Her words stabbed like daggers into my heart. All the excitement I'd felt was washed away in an instant. No, Onoe, I can't believe you. You're disgusting. So what, you think since I'm nice enough to hang out with you, I'd be sure to let you kiss me? Hell no. Ow, don't kick me, I'm sorry. I don't care if you're sorry, what's your problem? You are so fucking creepy. Die. Kill yourself right now. Bite through your disgusting tongue and... Bite right through your disgusting tongue and bleed to death, you piece of shit. And yeah, that did not actually happen. It was just a delusion. But he definitely saw it in his head. Taku? Why are you pale and shaking all of a sudden? No reason. Forcing her to the bed was basically a crime. Bad idea, yeah. It's not like I'm not like your average teenager who only thinks about the opposite sex. If my simulation with Sarika went that badly, trying it with any other girl was sure to end with me in handcuffs. Anyway, Taku, give me 500 yen. Huh? For what? Hush money? Wait. That was just a simulation. What are you talking about, 500 yen? Here, I forgot. She showed me the paper bag she was holding. I just ran into Gensan. He gave me this, said it was your usual. I paid him 500 yen for it. My usual? Confused, I took the bag from her. Gensan's usual changed every time I talked to him, so I couldn't count on it. What was it today? Oh, it's going to be the magazine. That drunk old bastard! What's your usual? Nothing! Here, 500 yen. I forced 500 yen into her hands. Ignoring her persistent questions, I led her to the door. I'll see you at school tomorrow. Huh? Thanks for the pictures. They're a big help. Fine. Reluctantly, she left my room. Ugh. Damn it. Sure, this was what I always bought from Gensan, but the information in the last one was no good. What the heck was a cool cat anyway? A cold cat? Is it cold because it's dead? 100 ways to secretly show your sexy side. No. I needed to hide this too. But I had so many of them now, I was running out of room on the top shelf. Ah! When I tried to force it in, a mountain of old papers came falling out. Damn it, no room, huh? What's this? It was an old scrapbook about the murders that occurred 6 years ago in Shibuya. I'd bought it from Gensan too, come to think of it. I'd already scanned it, but had forgotten to throw out the original. How could I, of all people, be so lax with information? I'd just have to bundle it up with the rest of my collection. My eyes lingered for a second on the page. Come to think of it, I quickly ran over to my PC. I opened the files on the case that I'd been looking for. Seriously? My words were a whisper. I looked back at the scrapbook, then compared it to the data on the PC. There was no doubt. I kept looking at it, and it kept saying the same thing. But this, if my hypothesis was right, I'm sure even the police haven't noticed. Strange sumo stickers increasing in Shibuya. Oh, and we're actually on this page. That's cool. So let's see. Lately, stickers with the face of a sumo wrestler on them have been appearing around Shibuya. Oh yeah, we saw those in the menu of our actual game here. I also like he has Rhine, iTunes, Internet Escape. Commonly known as sumo stickers, nobody knows who's putting them up or why. Everything about them is shrouded in mystery. You started seeing them on signs and guardrails all over Shibuya 5 or 6 years ago. There were a lot of other stickers put up by graffiti artists, but Shibuya in particular has a huge number of these sumo stickers. Some have speculated that they're a message from a terrorist group, or perhaps a cult. But as of now, that's nothing more than a hypothesis. When asked about the stickers, a 41-year-old man who worked at a Jinan Shibuya hair salon said they're creepy. I wish whoever it was would stop destroying the Shibuya landscape. Sometimes residents will take them down only to see them reappear later. Shibuya City Hall says, quote, "We are continuing our community outreach efforts to help stop these stickers from being put up, but also there are no plans to use city funds to remove the stickers. Police have said that placing these stickers on public property is a misdemeanor, but that it's extremely difficult to prosecute without catching someone in the act of doing so. They have no current plans for dealing with the stickers either. The citizens of Shibuya are going to be stuck with these stickers for a while, it seems." And then people are saying, after I first saw one 2 years ago, I've just been seeing them everywhere. It feels like there are even more lately. And then people are posting pictures. What the fuck, lol. There was one under the escalator at the Hikariro. How the hell did they get one down there? Took this a few years back. I saw that one too. More pics. I always feel sick when I see that face. I once threw up when I saw one of those stickers. Shit sucks. Whoever puts them up needs to FOAD. I heard if you scribble on top of one, the sumo wrestler curses you. Anyone else notice it's almost impossible to get the damn things off? Stop upping these things, Anon. There's a shit ton of them if you image search. And yeah, just lots of comments about it. And some rumors. At this point, only a few people were talking about the sumo wrestler stickers. Sumo wrestler stickers. Who could have known that these eerie stickers would mark the beginning of a world-changing event? Oh, damn. Alright. Well, and it looks like we've gone to the next day and a new scene. So I think we're going to end it there. We had our first delusion. We had, you know, presumably 2 murders. I mean, we know we only had 1. Those must be the murders that Takuru is investigating. And yeah, we also met Onoe, you know, Sekira. And I'm excited to see more. Whoops. Oh, I thought that would be number 1. But yeah, we're going to end it there for today, everybody. Please join me for the next episode where I'm sure we'll see some more messed up stuff. See you then.